Thank you, ma'am. Rules Committee roll call. Sheila Bino.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator Sheila Bino, excuse me, sorry. Legislator Delia DeRicci Witten.
Here.
Ranking Member Javon Abraham.
Here.
Legislator Laura Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator Vincent Muscarella. Vice Chairman Richard Nicolello. Chairwoman Norma Gonzalez.
Present.
We have a quorum, ma'am.
Thank you very much for your What we usually do with the Rules Committee is we entertain the contracts, and after the contracts we recess so the other committees can bring forth their items, and of course some of those items are also part of the Rules Committee, which will follow after the other committees have had a chance to have their items. The first contract is A18, a resolution authorizing the Director of the Nassau County Office of Purchasing to award and execute a contract between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Assessment and the Sanborn Map Company. Motion, please. Moved by Legislator Muscarella, second by Legislator Okay, and who do we have here to speak on this contract?
Stephen Corte from the Department of Assessment. The Department of Assessment is requesting funding for the second of 3 flyovers for our oblique photography program, which was originally granted back in 2014. The first flyover was successfully completed in 2015. The next one is scheduled for this year, hopefully in November, weather permitting. So again, we're requesting funding to complete that part of the process.
Legislator DeRicci Witten.
Thank you. Is this considered a sole source
Yes.
contract? Okay.
Yes.
Any other comment or question? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of A18 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes 4 to 3. The next item is B10, a resolution authorizing the county executive to award and execute a contract between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and Phil Ross Industries, Inc. Moved by Legislator Nicolello, second by Legislator Schaefer.
Ken Hall, Public Works. B10 is a construction contract to repair and harden the Cedar Point Lake Pump Station, which is located in Woodmere. The department received 3 bids, and the lowest responsible bidder was Philip Ross. This project will be reimbursed by FEMA under the consolidated VW.
Any questions of Mr. Arnold regarding this item?
If I may.
Minority Leader?
Thank you, Madam President Officer. If I'm understanding the backup correctly, Ken, Philip Ross made a bid of $3.89 million.
That is correct.
And the closest other bids were Stratus Contract and RJ Industries, which were 6.6 and 7.2.
That is correct.
Do we foresee Philip Ross Industries at some point this contract costing more? Because the bid just seems so low.
No, we had both the construction manager and the design engineer review the bid package, and we believe that they include everything required to do this job at their bid price.
Okay. Nothing further. Thank you, Madam President.
Any other comments or questions from the legislators? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of B10 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes 4 to 3. The next item is item hold on, E-171. The next item is E-170, a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute an amendment to a personal services agreement between the county of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Attorney's Office and B. Ready Fishburne, Hatter, and Donovan LLP. Moved by legislator Nicolello, second by legislator Mascarello. And at this point, I'm going to also ask for a motion to table this item. Moved by legislator Nicolello, seconded by legislator Schaefer. All those in favor of tabling E-170 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is tabled unanimously. Okay, the next item is E-171, a resolution calling for a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Human Services, Office of Mental Health, Chemical Dependency, and Development Disability Services in South Nassau Communities Hospital. Moved by legislator Mascarello, second by legislator Nicolello. And who do we have here?
Brian Hall, Human Services. This is a contract with South Nassau Community Hospital to provide outpatient counseling, mental health. It's a grant from the Office of Mental Health in which we get the advance. This contract is a January contract, which in 2016 they took over for a defunct agency that was going out, so they were late getting into 16. And the 17 contract was sent out in early January, and they had problems with the forms, and the completed package was not received back until July 6th, at which point we started the process of putting it through.
Any comments or questions from the legislators? Any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of E-171 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is E-172, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Department of Health and Swissport S.A. LLC. Moved by legislator Schaefer, seconded by legislator Nicolello.
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Rain, Department of Health. Item E-172-17 is a contract in the amount of $535,028. This is with Swissport. They provide transportation management and oversight to approximately 1,400 children with special health care needs who require transportation to and from programs.
Any comments or questions from the legislators? Any public comments on this item? There being none, all those in favor of E-172 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item is E-173, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Arts, Recreation, and Museums, and Party Up Production, moved by legislator Mascarello, seconded by legislator Nicolello. And we have
Eileen Creve, Department of Parks. This is an amendment to an existing contract as a personal service agreement, which was RFP'd, and we're in our second year, where we're extending the term and the amount of the contract in the amount of $40,000 to be funded through Hotel Motel. It's used to enhance many of the events that take place at the Parks Department or sponsored by the Parks Department, such as lighting, staging, props, etc.
any questions of Ms. Creve? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of E-173 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
The item passes 4-3. The next item is E-175, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau. You can't hear me? I'm sorry. Excuse me? The next item is E-175.
Nassau County Jail is a human rights fail. Nassau County Jail is a human rights fail. Nassau County Jail is a human rights fail.
Okay, the next item is E-175, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Human Services, Office of Mental Health,
Justice for Dennis Woody,
Chemical
show us the
Dependency,
video.
and Development Disabilities. Services
The
and
truth must be
Site, Inc.
exposed. Show us the
Motion.
videos. The truth must be exposed. Show us the videos. The truth must be exposed. Show us the videos. The truth must be exposed. Show us the videos. Justice for Dennis Woody.
Okay, go on.
Justice for
Brian
Eamon
Holy
McGann.
Services.
Justice for
Again,
Godino.
this is a
Justice for
contract for one of our mental
Bartholomew.
health
Justice for
agencies.
Woody. Justice for
100%
all those who
grant
have died
funded with
needlessly in
advanced
Nassau
money
County
set up ahead of
Jail.
time. This was late due to problems with the forms. We sent it out in December of 16. By the time we got it back, it was July 26, putting up the whole, getting it in through the process as quickly as possible.
Okay, any questions or comments on this item? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of E-175 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes 4-3.
Thank you.
The next item is E-176, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau acting on behalf of the Nassau County Attorney and West Group Law PLLC. Moved by legislator Schaefer, seconded by legislator Nicolò. And who do we have?
Deputy County Attorney Martha Kreisel. This is an amendment to an existing contract, and the contract is the law firm had formerly been known as Benoni, Lopez, Devereaux, and West. We are working now with the component of that firm known as the West Group, and that was in accordance with the contract documents, the underlying contract documents. And this is an extension and amendment for additional funds.
Okay, any questions or comments from the legislators? Minority Leader.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. On the principal questionnaire, a yes response was given when the question regarding whether in the past 5 years has the business or any of its owners or officers and or any affiliated businesses been the subject of an investigation by a government agency. However, on the business history form, question 13, they indicated no. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am, and there is an explanation for that, legislator, which has to do with the law firm itself was not the target of any of the matters, but rather it did have to provide some information, but it was not specific to their own business.
So why would they just indicate no on both questions?
In the interest of being as absolutely apparent and open as possible, but it did not specifically address anything on their part. It's just that they had responded to a document request, and in light of that, they didn't feel, they felt it was a gray area and did not feel comfortable answering otherwise.
Okay.
Any other comments? Any other?
Video save lives. Video save lives. Video save lives. Video save lives.
Video save lives.
That jail is a terror dome. Time to send Spazzato home. That jail is a terror dome. Time to send Spazzato home. That jail is a terror dome. Time to send Spazzato home. That jail is a terror dome. Time to send Spazzato home. That jail is a terror dome. Time to send Spazzato home. That jail is a terror dome. Time to send Spazzato home. That jail is a terror dome. Time to send Spazzato home. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't hide torture anymore. 2, 4, 6, 8. Let us see behind those gates. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't hide torture anymore. 2, 4, 6, 8. Let us see behind those gates.
Minority Leader. That's it from you?
Yeah, I was done.
Okay. Any other comments from the legislators? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of E-176 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, the item passes 4-3. The next item is E-177, personnel services agreement between the County of Nassau acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and Greenland Peterson, and moved by legislator Nicolello, seconded by legislator Muscarello. Ms. Arnold.
Ken Arnold, Public Works. E-177 is a design contract for the Milburn Culvert Rehab Project. This project received New York State grant as part of the 2016 Bridge New York program, which means the project will be 95% reimbursed. The department received 3 bids, and the best value and most technically responsive firm was Greenland Peterson.
Any questions or comments? Legislator Richie Whitten.
Hi, Ken. I know we discussed this once before, but I just want to put on the record again that regarding question 12, whether the business and or any owners or affiliates had any criminal investigations pending, the answer was yes. I know we discussed it before, but are you prepared to say that you're okay with that situation?
If we're aware of the situation, we feel it's resolved to our satisfaction.
Could you just remind me of what the pending charges were?
There was an individual in the firm that was investigated as part of a project. The principal and the firm itself was deemed not to be under the investigation. It was to one individual.
One individual?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the legislature?
I just have one other question.
Okay, legislator Richie Whitten.
Okay. The contract itself states 2 different amounts. Can you just clarify what the correct amount is? Like, for instance, in the memo signed by Rob Walker on July 26th, it says $374,100,000, and then in this contract it says not to exceed $412,000.
All right, give me 1 second.
So I'm gonna give Stefan so
The 412 includes the contingency on the project. The base value of the work is the 374 based on the current criteria of the project. But if we have an unknown soil condition or something that needs to be done in addition by the consultant, we have a contingency factor in the contract allowing to do the work without having to amend the contract.
So is that normal course of business to put extra money into a contract?
We do that with our design contracts, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna have someone come right now.
Any other comments from the legislators? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of E-177 signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the item passes 4-3. The next item is E-178, a personnel services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Attorney's Office, and Leventhal, Mulaney, and Blinkoff, LLP, moved by legislator Nicolello, second by legislator Muscarello.
And again, it's Deputy County Attorney Martha Kreisel, and this is an amendment on an existing contract. This is the firm that works with Nassau County's Board of Ethics.
Legislator Richie Whitten.
Thank you very much. I just have a question about, so the county attorney is basically adding another $85,000 to this contract for Mr. Leventhal to provide services for the Nassau County Board of Ethics?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you know why?
Well, a couple things. You know, the Board of Ethics meets on a regular basis. In addition to that, you'll remember, I believe it was approximately 2 months ago, there were some amendments, and they were complex to the Code of Ethics. And as a result of that, there's been some additional guidance required. I believe that was in the August session.
So to review our amendments? we're paying them?
To implement
Am I
the
understanding this
amendments,
right?
to implement them, because the amendments, there were some changes to procedures and everything else. So really, it's the implementation. And that's an amount that's set, it's a not to exceed amount, but it's anticipated that there may be some additional work necessary at this time.
Are you willing to share what these are for us to vote for this? Like, we haven't been notified of what changes are being made.
The board voted, the legislature voted on the changes.
Oh, I thought it was something different, what you were saying.
Okay, all right, never mind, I apologize. Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from the legislators? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of E-178 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes 4-3. The next item is E-179, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau acting on behalf of the Nassau County Attorney and West Group PLLC, moved by legislator Nicolello, second by legislator Schaefer. They're keeping you busy.
Again, it's Deputy County Attorney Martha Kreisel. And this is the law firm to which I referred in 17617 that had been known as Pinona Lopez, but now it's the West Group. This is different substantive project pertaining to the Coliseum and the Hub, and it's also an amendment to the terms of the contract for additional funds.
Any questions or comments from the legislators? Legislator Schaefer.
Good afternoon, Ms. Cressell. What exactly, you said that it was a project? That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay, as long as you hear me. So you said there was a project that this is related to. What is that exactly?
So the projects are, it's multifaceted. There's a number of different items pertaining to the Hub and to the Coliseum. They've provided us a list of some of those items, which I do not have at hand. Jackie, do you have that? I have it someplace in my paperwork, but I'll give you a little bit more information on that, legislator.
Okay, thank you.
So there's work both on the lease, on the Coliseum Plaza development, and on the Tri-Gen energy plant. And they'll be working on some of the legal issues and some of the proposals and the paperwork with regard to those projects.
Okay. Thank you.
Legislator Nicolello.
I just wanted to add that I personally found that their work on the lease for the Coliseum was nothing short of spectacular. I think that is heavily weighed in the county's favor. And as the news has reported recently, there's money flowing out to the county that didn't exist before. So I think they've done a very good job.
Thank you, legislator.
Any other comments or questions from the legislators? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of E-179 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes 4-3. The next item is E-180, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and Agreement Peterson Inc., moved by legislator Nicolello, seconded by legislator Mascarello.
Ken Arnold, Public Works. E-180 is a contract amendment to the design contract associated with the Hempstead Garage rehab and replacement project. This contract is expired. This amendment will extend the contract from its current expiration date to end of 17. The contract also is adding additional funds to the contract associated with the design services. There were some unknown conditions that required extra services, and in addition, the contract scope had expanded, and because the contract was based on a % of construction value, we are adding funds to make up that difference.
Any questions or comments from the legislators? Bernard Lita.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Ken, according to the backup, this amendment backdates the contract to January 1, 2016 through December 31st of this year. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Why would this contract take 22 months, roughly about 21 months approximately, to come to us before?
The department didn't recognize that it was expired because we hadn't seen billing from the consultant when we did see it. It took us a little bit of time to get all the proper paperwork because some of the subcontractors also had supplier disclosures as part of our review.
Has this been, Mr. Cleary here, has this contract been noted on the late contract list?
I devised suppliers, I believe it did.
Shaking his head, would you like to put that?
Yes.
Would you like to put
Mr.
that on?
Cleary said yes.
Our counsel has advised me that they've checked the list and it's not.
It's on the list?
It's not on the list.
It's not on the list. Mr. Cleary.
Robert Cleary, Director of Criminal Compliance. I thought it was on the list, I didn't confirm it today. You know, I was pretty convinced it was actually, but I'll check it and I can report back after the meeting if you'd like.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Signing up to this contract is ongoing. We'd like to continue the work and not delay the construction. That we can have
Guess what? Mr. Cleary, can you get more information for us as to why this item was not on the late list? So, rather than prevent the work from going forward?
I can get back to you with additional information if you like. I don't, if it wasn't on the list, I'm not sure why it wasn't on the list in all honesty. I can go back to my office, check and come back.
Okay, in the meantime, Mr. Arnold, tell us why we should go forward with this contract at this particular time.
the contract is ongoing, so we still want to keep the support of the design firm through the last stages of the closeout of the project. Without their availability, it will impact the county on that closeout. We'll have to not be able to use them, and they are the experts as the designer, and it would hamper that work.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
I just want to say for the record again, I mean, I don't understand why the legislature would proceed with a contract that's almost 2 years late. If it need be, we should reevaluate, rebid the contract. To consider a contract, we basically are complying with the fact that this legislature body is useless and not necessary. If the county executive is going to go forward with a contract without even seeking this approval until almost 2 years after the fact. I think the only way that this body can send a message that this will not be tolerated is by at least tabling it, at least making it sweat, or vote no. One of the two. But to say vote yes to a contract that is now almost 2 years late, to me, I really would be challenged to explain to my constituents why this legislative body is even necessary if the county executive can act this way unilaterally.
I believe that Mr. Arnold made your case before this body, and it's imperative upon us to move forward and take a vote on it, unless we have another comment from Legislator Nicolau.
We have the latest list. I'm sorry not to cut off the Deputy Design Officer.
We just did.
But just Mr. I believe Cleary was going to look up a list. We have the list from August. Is there a more recent list, Mr. Cleary, than August 9, 2017?
I haven't published one, but it's obviously...
No, please get to the mic, Mr. Cleary.
I haven't published one since then, but obviously the list does change over time. I'll have to check the timing.
Okay, I just want to state for the record that we are looking at the list from August 9, 2017, and I do not see this contract on that list. Public. Okay. But I'm looking at the Public Works section. It starts on item 34, goes all the way down to 45, so there's approximately 12 contracts that are on this list, and this one is not. So either there's another list, or this one has been omitted. For whatever reason, I think it begs that we at least have Mr. Cleary go back and find out why it's not on the list. So at least we do some resemblance of our due diligence. Or we just vote yes, like we know.
I think there's only two possibilities. Either the notice of the contract came to me after that list was published, or we, as our department, dismissed it. I don't know which it is. I have to see what it is.
I just look. No one discounts the
potential merits of the contract. I'm sure it has a component which protects motorists and pedestrians. I'm not doubting that one bit. But at some point, this body has to be able to recognize that we have a contract that's before us that's almost 2 years late. And granted, we've been able to consider contracts that have been recognized on the list. That was the understanding we all had, that we would consider contracts that are at least on the list, and this contract is not even on the list. So here we are making another adjustment to how we do things as a legislative body to grant this contract going forward. So I think we've said it all. My motion stands. I have a motion to table. I believe it's seconded by legislator.
But I also have a comment from legislator Nicolello. Make the motion.
I did. Motion to
table.
Motion to
By
table.
Arlena and seconded by legislator Reggie Whitten. All those in favor of tabling this item signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No. Aye, the motion to table fails. Okay, now, legislator Nicolello has a question, please ask.
Sure. Mr. Arnold, has there been work going on this in these 2 years?
Yes, part of the work is we owe them because of the value of the contract, so that percentage that is a known factor now, so we have to amend the contract to pay them that difference from the original estimate to the actual cost of the project. And during this parts of the construction, there was soil that had to be remediated and removed. It was not part of the original scope that they had to be involved in, and that was done as part of the construction early on also.
So part of this is to pay for work that they've done because of what you just described, and part of this is to pay for work that's going to be done, is that correct?
Right, and then there's a small part of the work for their involvement for the last couple months of work, which they have not been paid yet.
What is the status of the redevelopment of the facility? Where is it?
I can bring up our chief architect, who can get the details on exactly where the project is.
Right, I mean, this is one basic details as to where we are. I'm trying to look at the merits of this.
Hi, Robert LaValle, architect, DPW. Phase 2 of this project is ongoing. The vehicle storage building has been erected and is occupied. The vehicle maintenance building has been erected and is nearing completion for occupancy. We still have a small portion of work to complete. We estimate that this will be completed by early in the new year at the latest, which is the rehabilitation of the existing maintenance facility. That will be turned into as administration offices. That portion will begin as soon as the new maintenance building is occupied. The rationale behind continuing with Grenman Peterson as our consultants is that DPW has had to take over for them in their absence once they were notified that the contract had expired, and we realized that the contract did indeed expire. Our own staff has had to step up to the plate, attempt to figure out where we were in the project. We were not the designers. We had to get inside the designers' heads, try to figure out why they did what they did and how they did it. And we have stepped up to the plate to keep the project rolling. However, this final phase of the job is complicated, turning an old building into an administration wing, something that it was never designed to be done. And that's why we really need the project design team, MEP, and architects back on this job.
What, could you give me a timeline if you had, if it was necessary to go out and rebid the request for proposals with respect to the design work? What kind of delay are we looking at?
That would be a minimum of 9 months, and we would open the county up to a delay claim from the general contractor. He would have to stop his work. At this point in time, it would be a disaster as far as the job is concerned. We're trying to get this project finished prior to the weather going south on us. We need this facility to operate our road maintenance crews for the winter.
Now, Mr. Arnold, this one seems to have slipped through the cracks. What procedures are in place at Public Works to identify contracts that are ongoing contracts that are expiring or expired? What safeguards do we have?
We rely on our project engineers. We've talked to our project engineers about the importance of notifying the front office about expiring contracts and closely expiring contracts. This one was identified. I have to go back and understand why the department understood it and it did end up on your list. But as Mr. LeBar mentioned, that we did stop the contractor's work when this came to our attention. And we've been doing the work in-house since that point. But we do all get money from early work, the percent change of the construction value, and we do want to put them back on the job for that last couple months of oversight.
I don't know what else is in place, but it seems to me that relying on the project engineers to identify this stuff is not enough. I mean, isn't there somebody within Public Works that's tasked to monitor these contracts? The very simple duty to make sure that nobody's working after the contract is expired.
Yeah, we are working towards that. We've been looking at all our contracts, but the department has some very old historic contracts. I mean, this contract today goes back probably 7 years. So we are looking at all our contracts. We're doing our best to make sure that we don't bring anything up that's expired. We're doing.
Well, I mean, this has been going on for months here. It's been highlighted here. And I know that every department head who has to come up here and speak is probably doing a little bit of nerves because when they're bringing forward expired contracts. So I don't understand why this, Public Works and all the other departments should be all over this. And I don't really think whether it's on the list or not is not that important for me. But,
but like I said, we did identify that we did stop the work. So I think we did recognize that we had an issue here.
I think what we need from the legislature, from the Department of Public Works in particular, is an explanation or a written explanation telling us what safeguards are now in place, what procedures are being followed to make sure this doesn't happen going forward. And I agree with the frustrations, these late contracts, but on the other hand, I don't want to create a complete disaster and then actually do something to prove a point that's going to damage a project and or the taxpayers' interest. So I would vote to approve this. But again, I think we need something in writing from you telling us exactly what safeguards are in place. Okay.
Understood.
Any other comments of, who is it? Legislator Bynum.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. So it just seems to me that this is an issue that could be easily taken care of by the use of technology. I mean, we should just counter these things and it should just pop up and tell us that it's going to be an expiration coming soon, and then you could move forward with the simple actions of getting it here to the legislature. But it just gets, I can't wrap this around my head where not only is this a late contract, this is a contract that has now increased cost. And this county was aware that there was additional expenses that would be borne to this project back in February. And it still didn't prompt you to get it here any earlier than September. At a certain point, it's just, to me, a blatant disregard for policy and procedure. And I do agree that at some point, this is not at some point, at this exact moment, we have been rendered ineffective and because they're spending money and we're the fiduciaries. The administration is just spending money and there's no ability for us to just to really stop them because they've indebted us to this contract. And this is wrong. It just has to stop. And to the procurement director, please find the use of technology to assist DPW and these other entities in being able to identify when there's an expiration and make sure that they understand that whenever there's additional costs borne to these contracts, that they have to get it here to this legislature before they go ahead and bind us to any additional expenditures. Thank you.
I will say again, though, when the department recognized that we had this issue, we did stop payments, future payments to the contractor, and we only have listed what we already owe them prior to finding out the issue. They have not been expending more costs since the date of the issue.
What date was that, if you don't mind me asking?
We believe it's somewhere around February, but I have to go back to my notes.
Thank you. I think we need to have some kind of action plan for how to move forward. I know that time is of the essence for this because we have to stop this spending without any approval here, okay? I really would like to see something. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that some kind of process can't be put in place within the next 30 days that prevents this from happening in the future.
If I can respond to one thing that you said, as far as using technology to avoid this or minimize this in the future, we are at least operating on a database now that is capturing term dates when they're available, such as in this case. So going forward, that will be able to be used to sift out dates as they're expiring. So we'll hopefully be able to avoid this in the future in that way, certainly make the situation a whole lot better, and avoid missing items in case that's what happened here.
Who will be notified when those...
Well, the platform is available to both the department and to my office. Departments will be able to run their own reports on their own items. So they would be available.
So who's the accountability officer then in that particular case?
Well, the department owns the procurement, owns the conduct of the contract. My job is I have some culpability as well insofar as I need to monitor the operations and try to keep everybody on the right track, show them how to run reports and what have you, and to use the information to manage their operations better. But the departments do own their operations.
And so they would then be required to appoint somebody within their department or division to be the accountability officer to make sure that they're then moving the contract through the process, correct?
Whether formal
or the RFP process or whatever is going to occur.
Yes, I think each department should have their own. They can develop their own structure and decide whether there's a formal delegation of that kind of authority or not. But one way or another, they do need to be looking at their contract portfolio and identifying when they need to start things. The system will start to tell people you have a contract that's going to expire in 10 months. You need to start the new solicitation. Things like that. It won't cause them, of course, to actually do the work. They have to have somebody there to, or a group of people that are actually making those things happen. But the system will be aware of those impending deadlines.
Okay, I would think that as the procurement officer, there's some accountability on your behalf, to make sure that we're in compliance.
Well, as I said, I'm not saying that I don't have culpability in making this process work as effectively as possible. Absolutely. My intent was to set up the data structures so that we have the ability for people to manage their affairs and then to monitor it from my position.
Okay, somebody has to sound the siren. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the legislators? Any public comments? There being none, all those in favor of E180 signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
The item passes 4-3. The next item is E181, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Informational Technology, and Annette Fleming and DBA Geodecisions. Moved by legislator Nicolello, seconded by legislator Mascarell. And here we have.
Hello, Ed Eisenstein, IT Commissioner. How are you? Good afternoon. This is a $0 amendment to extend the services of this vendor for another 2 years to 2019.
Any questions or comments from the legislators? Legislator DeReggie Whitten.
How are you?
Second.
I just have a question. This contract entails several different companies, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And why do you think the county needs multiple contractors?
Thank you for asking that question. It's something I designed years ago. We went into RFP and we got 4 qualified vendors. In order to get the best deal or bang for the buck, if you will, we allowed for multiple vendors to be awarded the deal. Throughout the life of the contract, we then ask them for project stuff within that so we can get the best case possible. So the 4 vendors compete against each other for our work throughout the lifetime of the contract. That's why it was set up that way, for us to get the best deal possible.
Do Do you know how much revenue has been collected through this?
I do not have those revenue models, I don't know. There's several from what I understand.
Okay, I mean, like before we vote on something like this, it would be nice to see how it's working, so maybe you could provide that to the legislature as far as the revenue goes. Just to-
Revenue, this is our GIS models internally
Right.
where we keep track of what's happening with our mapping system. If there's other departments that are using that to create revenue, I'm not aware of that. It's not an IT function. So our GIS system is all of the 419,000 parcels are mapped together and stitched together in a very comprehensive, complicated system called the GIS system.
Right.
The vendor is Esri, and we have multiple vendors that help us with that platform. Although I'd be happy to show you a demonstration of the system. It's extremely
I
extensive.
have a general idea, but from what I understand, there's over 700 licensed partners outside of Nassau County government who pay us for sharing the GIS data. Is that correct, or is that?
There are vendors who share in our data on a regular basis.
And they pay us for that, right?
That model is from the 80s and 90s. The vendor created an open data model many years ago where that data is no longer being charged to sell.
Okay. So we no
The
longer-
selling of the data is kind of an old data model that went away many years ago. Consider that did not create transparency in government by charging other people for our maps.
Okay, all right, I thought it was still a revenue maker, but thank you.
Happy to show you a full demonstration.
Any other questions or comments from the legislators? Any public comments? There being none, all those in favor of E-181 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes 4-3. The next item is E-182, Personnel Services Agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Information and Technology and Spectrum Holdings, Inc. Moved by legislator Schaefer, second by legislator Nicola. And
Ed Eisenstein again, how are you? SpecFit is a vendor that handles the vendor registrations. This is an amendment to extend it for another 2 years for $186,000 in support. When vendors come in, they register through SpecFit. SpecFit also has a short-term bidding model where more people are participating and things of that nature.
legislator Schaefer.
What's the increase attributed to?
Just another 2 years of maintenance, that's all standard.
Okay, it's not an increase in the contract amount?
No.
Okay.
Any other comment or question from the legislators? Any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of E-182 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? The next item is item E-183, a personnel services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Information Technology and IIT Inc.
Yes, this is an
Hold on. Moved by legislator Nicolello, second by legislator Mastrobano. Okay, now you can speak.
I apologize. This is a supplemental staffing vendor. We're adding $200,000 to their agreement to be able to hire contractors and supplemental staffing vendors to help us with primarily the PeopleSoft system and other major systems that we carry, the data center and IT.
Okay, any questions or comments from the legislators regarding this item? There being none, any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of E-183 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the item passes 4-3. The next item is E-185, a personnel services, thank you, Mr. Ivins.
Thank you very much.
A personnel services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and the Line Road Engineers, Inc., moved by legislator Mastrobano, second by legislator Nicolello. And okay, Mr. Arnold.
Ken Arnold, Public Works. E-185 is a contract amendment for our on-call civil site construction inspection, construction engineering contract. This contract is an extension only. The current contract expired May 26th of 2017. This amendment extends that contract for 18 months.
Any questions or comments of Mr. Arnold on this item? And any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of E-185 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? The item passes 4-3. The next item is E-186, the Personal Services Agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Attorney's Office, and Leahy and Johnson, P.C. Moved by legislator Nicolau, second by legislator Mascarell.
Martha Kreisel, Deputy County Attorney. This is an amendment to an existing contract with Leahy and Johnson. That law firm has expertise in a number of matters, and it represents the county in various matters. And that's the amendment before the legislature today. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the legislators? Any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of E-186 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes 4-3. The next item is E-187, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Department of Health, VMC Group, Inc. Moved by legislator Schaefer, second by legislator Mascarell. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Lorraine, Department of Health. Item E-187-17 is an amendment to a contract with the VMC Group. It's in the amount of $600,000, and the services are to provide, the contractor to provide municipal representation for the preschool special education program.
Any questions or comments from the legislators? Legislator, why not?
Hi, good afternoon, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So these are the individuals who would be in the room when there's the assessment is being undertaken, or at least there's, I guess, a summary of services
Right, for the
are
committee.
established?
Yes, correct, the Committee on Preschool Special Education.
Okay, and what is the actual backgrounds of the principals or the services?
They're either psychologists or preschool teachers experienced in the field.
Okay, so we're no longer using individuals who are efficiency experts, right?
They are subject matter experts in the field.
That's, yeah. Earlier on, some time ago, there were individuals who were efficiency experts in their role and their actual, it was suggested by the comptroller's office and then accepted by this administration to move forward with using efficiency experts, and their performance indicators were based on the number of services that was not provided to the family. I just want to make sure that we don't have individuals in the room that are actually looking to reduce services to families, but instead are there as subject matter experts, as you said, and know what's most important to provide to these young people.
Absolutely, they're subject matter experts. We don't, the Department of Health nor the representatives, the services are chosen by the school district and the families.
Okay. No, this service, the person that's in, what's this person's role that's in the role?
This person is to advocate for the family and for the school to make sure that appropriate services are being provided to the child and the family.
Do we have the backup? I just want to make sure we have it.
The services are authorized by the school district, not by the Department of Health or the county. We pay for the services, but we do not authorize or approve the services.
We're just in the room to determine that.
Yes, we are subject matter experts, and we are there to make sure that the family is advocated for, that appropriate services are given to the child and the family.
Okay. And how does this cost for this particular contract compare to what we may have utilized in the previous contract period?
Well, this is a Fourth Amendment. This is a 2-year. It has been $300,000. In the past, we individually contracted with each subject matter expert, but that wasn't really an efficient way to contract because sometimes the money wasn't utilized and then we couldn't utilize funding. This way we can keep a consistent level of subject matter experts.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any
other comments or questions from the legislators? Any public comment on this item? There being none, all those in favor of B-187 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.